So good morning and welcome, welcome, welcome to the launch of the Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. I'm your host for the morning, Aisha Nichols, and joining me is the lovely Joellen Larea, who's the lead of partnerships, advocacy, and reporting at the Caribbean Export Development Agency. We're very happy to see you all here. As we establish protocol to get the morning going, we recognize Senator the Honorable Christopher Sinclair, Senior Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, Ambassador of the European Union Delegation to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, and other distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, Dr. Lynette Holder, Chairperson of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Dr. Damie Sinanan, Executive Director of the Caribbean Export, Ms. Joyanne Skinner, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and other officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, other permanent secretaries and senior government officials, other heads of regional and international organizations, Caribbean Investment Forum partners, members of the investment community, members of the private sector, entrepreneurs and innovators, specially invited guests, those people joining us online, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today we gather not just to outline an agenda, but to ignite momentum. The Caribbean is moving decisively from potential to execution, positioning our region as a unified, future-ready hub for sustainable innovation, capital alignment, and high-impact growth. Over the course of this morning's launch, you will get an exclusive first look at the priority sectors, strategic vision, and landmark opportunities that define CIF 2026. So, before we launch, I'm going to hand over to Joellen to give a few opening remarks as well on behalf of Caribbean Export.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you ever so much, Aisha. Yes, it's absolutely lovely to be here this morning, and welcome to all of you. As you know, hopefully you can see the big 30 is our 30th anniversary for Caribbean Export. So this really is a momentous occasion for us, and we welcome you all here once again as we launch the Caribbean Investment Forum for its 5th edition right here in Barbados.
Perfect. So, without further delay, let us officially launch the journey toward a more resilient and prosperous Caribbean economy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We now call on Chairperson of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Dr. Lynette Holder, to deliver opening remarks. Dr. Holder.
Pleasant good morning. You will permit me to stand on the protocol that has been announced. While I do so, I must recognize the Honorable Senator Christopher Sinclair, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, for being here with us. And I must recognize Permanent Secretary Hunt, who is also in the room. Yes, thank you very much for joining us this morning. You know, as I was preparing to come today, my staff told me, well, go to the session, don't, be too intellectual, don't be too witty and too visionary, just be yourself. So it is my intention to try to hold up to that. Now, on behalf of the Board of Directors of Caribbean Export, I extend sincere appreciation to the Government of Barbados for hosting this year's forum and its support as we begin the journey towards CIF 2026. Today is about more than launching another event. It is about reaffirming a vision of a Caribbean that is increasingly recognized not simply for its natural beauty or cultural richness, but as a region of innovation, resilience, and opportunity. a region capable of attracting quality investment, developing globally competitive enterprises, and creating sustainable prosperity for its people. And that vision lies in the heart of the Caribbean Investment Forum. From the very first SIF in 2022, Caribbean Export and its partners have worked tirelessly to establish a platform where governments, investors, entrepreneurs, development institutions, and the private sector could come together with a common purpose to transform conversations into partnerships, and partnerships into investment, and investment into sustainable growth across the region. And since its inception, SIF has helped to raise the visibility of Caribbean projects and enterprises, strengthen regional collaboration, and create new opportunities for dialogue and partnership. Just as importantly, it has helped to reinforce a more confident narrative about our region, not only as a place of need, but as a region of innovation, resilience, and genuine investment potential. We need only to look at our most recently concluded SIF in Montego Bay last year, where alongside our partners, 15 investor-ready projects were packaged for investors, representing an investment pipeline valued at more than $82 million across strategic sectors, including sustainable agriculture, digital transformation, the green economy, and transport and logistics. Now, this represents a significant step forward from simply promoting investment opportunities to presenting well-prepared, bankable projects capable of attracting international financing. Now, this progress has been built through collaborative efforts of Caribbean Export and obviously our member states, and the many partners that have supported the forum over the years. And together, we have strengthened SIF's role in showcasing a growing pipeline of credible investment opportunities, connecting regional priorities with international interests, and creating space for deeper collaboration among governments, investment promotion agencies, development institutions, and the private sector. The progress of SIF has also been supported by the broader institutional development of Caribbean Export. During my tenure as the chair, the board has worked closely with management to strengthen strategic direction, oversight, and accountability, and to ensure that the agency remains responsive to the priorities of its member states. And these improvements may not always be seen externally, as good governance is often invisible. It does, however, not only does not attract headlines, nor is it measured by a single event or announcement, yet it is fundamental to sustain success. Strong governance builds confidence. Confidence attracts partnerships, and partnerships attract investment, and investment creates opportunities. So they provide the foundation for Caribbean Export to manage partnerships responsibly, deliver regional initiatives effectively, and continue expanding the scale and ambition of events such as the SIF. So hosting this year's Caribbean Investment Forum in Barbados is a moment of personal reflection for me. So I am proud of how far the forum has come since 2022, and of the role it now plays in advancing Caribbean investment and the agenda for the future. We started in Trinidad and Tobago in 2022. Then we went to the Bahamas in 2023, to Guyana in 2024, and as I mentioned before, Montego Bay, Jamaica last year. This year is Barbados' turn. So I am particularly proud of this moment. SIF, for us at Caribbean Export, has now become an institution. And this progress has been a collective achievement. I'm sure you will agree with me. And I therefore wish to recognize the board of directors, many who are joining us via the live stream this morning, the management and staff of Caribbean Export, whose leadership, oversight, creativity, and dedication have guided the forum's development and brought each edition to life. I also want to thank our member states in the CARIFORUM region and the many partners whose commitment, expertise, and support have helped to strengthen both the agency and this product that we have developed known as the Caribbean Investment Forum. I'm confident, ladies and gentlemen, that SIF will continue to grow in relevance, reach, and impact in the years ahead. So, SIF 2026 gives us an opportunity to build on the progress that we've made in the past. And as we look towards October, our task is to ensure that the forum brings forward strong opportunities, meaningful partnerships, and practical pathways for investment across the Caribbean. So today, as we officially launch the Caribbean Investment Forum 2026, I extend an invitation to everyone gathered here, to those joining us online, to join us in Barbados in October. To our government, let us continue creating the policy environment that encourage investment, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And to our development partners, Ambassador, to all of you this morning, I say thank you. Thank you for your continued confidence in our region. Your support has helped transform ideas into action, and your partnership remains essential as we work together to build more resilient and competitive businesses. You know, there's a saying by Drucker, one of my favorite writers. He says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And so we've sought to do that with this forum. The Caribbean Investment Forum has grown through a shared commitment to the region's development and investment potential. And I'm confident that with that spirit of collaboration and ambition, SIF 26 will mark another important chapter in its continued evolution. You know, they tell me that there are people who make others happy wherever they go. And there are those who make others happy whenever they go. So after the session, you let me know which one I was to you. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Holder. Joellen, one thing that struck me from Dr. Holder's presentation, well, remarks just now rather, two words strike me: progress and partnership.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's, you know, an agency that has been around for the last 30 years. I don't think we would have been able to survive the length of time that we have without the partnerships that we've been able to foster and develop through those years. Many of those partners are here with us in the room. Of course, the European Union, our longest standing partner, you know, implementing the EDF programs. We have partners from including the Caribbean Development Bank and also most recently Global Affairs Canada as well. So, you know, it's one of those things when, you know, when we're looking to develop and support the private sector in the region, we can't do it all alone. We need to really work together, and I welcome any opportunity to continue those partnerships further, and any new partners that may well wish to come on board as well.
Yes, which would be a good time to take a nod at the official sponsors as well: Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Global Gateway, Republic Bank, Invest Barbados.
Yes, indeed. And we also have some new partners that have also just recently come on board. JAMPRO, they would have partnered with us in Jamaica, of course, the host country, and they're supporting, again, this event. And, you know, it's really quite important to recognise that this is, you know, a regional event. And Dr. Holder did note that, you know, we have brought the event to the region. We've gone through 5 countries. This is the 5th country, I should say. But within the last 30 years, you know, we have been really focused on supporting the promotion of investment opportunities. And we would have hosted events in other jurisdictions, other markets. But 2022, coming out of the pandemic, it was recognized we really need to bring this event into the region and make this, because if anybody's going to invest in the region, they need to come here. That's the best place for them to be able to make the decisions.
Makes perfect sense and allows us to segue to the Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Dr. Dami Sinanan. And he's going to speak to us this morning about the future of SIF, building the Caribbean investment ecosystem. Please welcome Dr. Sinanan.
Thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone. Senator, the Honorable Christopher Sinclair, Senior Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, Ambassador of the European Union Delegation to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, and other members of the distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, Dr. Lynette Holder, Chairperson of Caribbean Export Development Agency, Ms. Joanne Skinner, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, as well as all other officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, all other protocols observed. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is certainly a pleasure for me to welcome everyone here to the official launch of the Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. I would first like to thank Minister Sinclair and the government of Barbados for their very kind and generous hosting of Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Lynette Holder, our chairperson. Always dread going after her because she's so charming in her speeches and I come across so bland. But anyway, I'd like to thank you for your leadership and the board of directors for their continued support of Caribbean Investment Forum, as well as the wider work of Caribbean Export Development Agency. And I would also like to recognize the European Union for their enduring partnership that has now spanned decades. And I would also like to say personal mention to Republic Bank Limited for once again being a sponsor of Caribbean Investment Forum. They have been with us since the very start. So this morning, we formally begin the countdown to CIF 2026, which will take place right here in Barbados, right here at the Barbados Hilton, from October 5th to the 7th. This launch event is more than just an announcement of a date. It doesn't even signify the start of work, because as we all know, work for Caribbean Investment Forum 2026 began the hour after Caribbean Investment Forum 2025 concluded in Montego Bay last year. Our planning team has been hard at work since then. This launch represents Caribbean Export's commitment to bring together the right opportunities, partnerships, and participants for a forum that will deliver real results. The Caribbean Investment Forum has grown to become the Caribbean's premier flagship regional investment event. It brings together governments, businesses, investors, financial institutions, developmental partners, and other regional organizations around a common purpose. And that purpose is to connect credible Caribbean opportunities with partnerships, expertise, and financing needed to advance them forward. In other words, it is our commitment to action. And let me repeat that. It is our commitment to action. This matters because the Caribbean region does not lack ideas. It does not lack ambition. It does not lack entrepreneurial talent. We know that. What is often missing is the bridge between promising opportunities and an investable proposition, between businesses seeking to grow and the necessary finance, technical support, or strategic partnership required to make that growth possible. And SIF exists to build that bridge. Since 2022, in Trinidad and Tobago, SIF has created a regional space where credible opportunities can be showcased, where businesses can engage directly with potential partners, and where conversations can begin, or in many cases continue, about what it takes to turn promise into investment. In doing so, SIF strengthens the Caribbean region's profile as an investment destination, and it supports sustainable growth across the entire region. Each edition of SIF since 2022 has raised the visibility of a growing pipeline of regional projects and business opportunities. Caribbean Export has pioneered a structured approach towards project preparation because we realize that is what's missing many times when we're trying to close investments. We have built a growing pipeline of investment-ready opportunities across the region. Today, that portfolio stands at 30 projects valued at approximately US $172 million. And these are not just ideas on paper. They are businesses' initiatives that have moved from concept to credible, investable proposals, ready to be matched with the right partners and capital needed to realize that investment. Each forum has also forged a lasting partnership amongst governments, developmental institutions, investors, as well as the important private sector, while strengthening the international awareness of the Caribbean as a region with credible investment potential. But showcasing these opportunities is only the first step. Interest must be followed by stronger preparation, sustained engagement, and a clear pathway towards actual investment. The true measure of SIF's success is therefore not only the opportunities presented to the forum, it is the partnerships that continue and the projects that advance and the investments that ultimately take shape. And that is the thinking behind SIF 2026. This forum will not just feature talking. I would argue that the time for talking has long been over. This forum will combine that dialogue with practical opportunities for engagement. It will include project presentations, targeted business-to-business meetings, and practical clinics designed to help businesses and project proponents better understand what it takes to attract investment and move opportunities forward. SIF 2026 will continue to focus on 4 priority areas: sustainable agriculture, the green economy transition, digital transformation, as well as transportation and logistics. These are deliberately broad categories spanning both established industries and emerging opportunities that are reshaping our region. From agri-tech solutions, circular economy models, precision farming, smart irrigation, to renewable energy, carbon reduction technologies, energy efficient and environmentally sustainable manufacturing, digital services, financial technologies, AI, ports, shipping, aviation, mobility, and warehousing. SIF will ensure that the focus be on transformational opportunities that can have transformational impact to our region and not just the usual endless talk and information sharing. It's not SIF. This is also what we see in the future of SIF. Our ambition is to continuously evolve the event from a successful annual event where we could say, yes, we had 450 people, but a year-long regional investment promotion platform, one that identifies opportunities earlier, strengthens readiness, and sustains engagement well beyond the 3 days of the forum. This will require more structured project preparation, more targeted matching between opportunities and investors, and stronger follow-up to ensure that these discussions move from being just promise to being actual opportunities. It will mean connecting businesses and projects more deliberately with climate finance, developmental finance, and blended finance solutions suited to their specific needs. And I must bring up Caribbean Export's recent accreditation to the Green Climate Fund will only strengthen our ability to support this work and to help build a more credible pipeline of climate-smart private sector opportunities. So as we move forward from launch, which is here, to actual delivery, which is in October, I would like to issue a call to action. I would like to invite our governments and investment promotion agencies to bring forward strong projects and businesses and support broad participation in SIF 2026. I invite our developmental partners, regional institutions, and sponsors to contribute expertise, resources, and networks needed to strengthen both the opportunities and both the forum and the opportunities it presents. To our chambers, business support organizations, and media partners, we ask your support in mobilizing participation, sharing the SIF message, and extending our reach beyond this region. And to the businesses and entrepreneurs and project developers who are joining us online and who are here in the room, this is your invitation to begin preparing early to engage with everything that SIF 2026 can provide for you. And to our investors across the Caribbean and around the world, we invite you to join us in Barbados. Come discover credible opportunities, build new partnerships, and help shape the next chapter of Caribbean investment. Our ambition is clear. We want SIF to be more than a successful event. We want to measure its impact on the project advanced and the investment it brings to the Caribbean region. As our co-host mentioned, this year also marks a significant milestone for Caribbean export. We celebrate 30 years of working for the Caribbean private sector across trade and development and across investment. SIF 2026 gives us an important opportunity to honor that legacy while looking ahead to the next phase of our work. So, as I conclude, I once again thank the government of Barbados, our board of directors, the EU and other partners, and everyone supporting this effort. We look forward to welcoming the region and the wider investment community across the globe to Barbados on October 5th to the 7th, right here at the Hilton Barbados. Thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your morning.
Listen closely. That sound you hear is opportunity taking shape. Ideas becoming industries, possibilities becoming progress. Across Barbados and the wider Caribbean, progress is rising from the ground, moving through our industries and creating new opportunities. Innovation is changing how the Caribbean grows, powers, moves, and connects. In sustainable agriculture, investment is strengthening food security, building resilience, and creating new opportunities. The green economy transition is changing how the Caribbean powers its homes, businesses, and economies, turning natural resources into sustainable growth. Through logistics and transportation, the region is strengthening how goods, people, and opportunities move, connecting markets, improving access, driving growth. And through technology, Caribbean businesses are becoming smarter, more efficient, and more competitive. Progress accelerates when the right people connect. When ideas meet investment, innovation meets opportunity, and then conversations turn into action. The opportunities are here. The ideas are ready. The Caribbean is moving forward. Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. Invest, innovate, accelerate.
Well, that was our introduction to October the 5th, from the 5th to the 7th, the Caribbean Investment Forum. Hopefully it invigorated some sense of what to expect. I think Dr. Damie mentioned it quite emphatically in his presentation. We're looking for action, and that's really what we want to hit home with you all here today and for those that are watching. I just want to pick up on a couple of things that Damie would have mentioned in his presentation, and that's really as it relates to the projects that are being packaged. Because we've been partnering with UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, to support the development of those projects. And so, it's really important that you guys really get to understand and see the wealth of investment opportunities that are across the region. Not only as Dr. Holder and Dr. Sinanan mentioned, we've been each year presenting new projects, and you're able to actually look back and see all of those projects that we have packaged so that you can still continue to actually investigate those if they haven't got off the ground as yet. Maybe they haven't quite found the right investor, but you can also still see those projects and actually look to see how you can cooperate and partner with them in order to get them going as well. So I would urge you to visit the website in order to do that. And as I say, for the SIF that's coming up in October, we will have another collection of investment projects, which I'll be honest, I've had a quick look to see what they are. I'm not going to steal their thunder as such, but there's some really interesting things that are being brought to the table. And so I would really encourage you to take a look when the investment catalogue is released.
Sounds perfect. And now we welcome Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, the head of the European Union delegation to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, to deliver partner remarks. Please welcome her.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. If you allow me to stand on the protocols that have already been established, I would just like to say it's a real pleasure to join you today for the official launch of the Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. And I would very much like to thank the government of Barbados and Senior Minister Sinclair and his Ministry, Foreign Affairs and Trade, for hosting this year in October. And I would also like to congratulate our long-standing partners, the Caribbean Export Development Agency, for their vision and also their dedication in transforming the Caribbean Investment Forum into what I think is a flagship event today. As a regional platform that can connect governments, entrepreneurs, and investors through conversations that focus on driving economic growth and innovation across the region, I think it's really a game changer. And I put that within the context of a global investment landscape that is ever increasingly competitive. And amid rising tensions in the world, not least the crisis in Iran and the impact that it has on fuel, for example, we also see that total capital flows are slowing down globally, and high interest rates have resulted in capital becoming scarcer. Supply chains have been continuing to evolve, but in many cases they've become further fragmented. Alongside these geopolitical realities and digital technologies are effectively reshaping multiple industries across the world. And I think in that context of uncertainty, investors, governments, partners are looking for reliable investment partners to work with. And I was thinking about this, and how is the Caribbean region placed within this challenging time, this challenging context? And from my perspective, the region offers incredible political stability, a very strategic global geographic position for the global markets, an increasingly skilled workforce, abundant renewable energy potential. It was good to see that the green industries were highlighted on as one of the priorities. A growing digital economy and very innovative entrepreneurs who are ready to compete internationally. And so I agree with what the video was saying. The region is full of potential. But the challenge is ensuring that investors can identify these. Investors that are perhaps not here, not in the region, not in the room, not in Barbados, not across the Caribbean. So that they can identify the opportunities and move confidently and with confidence, also with their financial backers, from this interest to actual investment. And this is precisely where I see that the Caribbean Investment Forum can deliver value in transforming those business conversations into investment partnerships. The increased emphasis this year, which we've just been looking at in terms of pre-qualified projects, curated investor engagement, targeted business matchmaking, demonstrates how the forum is maturing its operational mode or operational setup to really deliver for the region. And while for 50 years the European Union has worked alongside CARICOM and CARIFORUM and Caribbean Export and national governments to support private sector development, entrepreneurship, innovation, and regional competitiveness, I can see that there is a real opportunity and potential now that perhaps, or maybe it's even an urgency now, that we haven't felt in the past. I think this is partly due to the uncertainty in international markets, and I think the Caribbean offers predictability and openness, and I would like to emphasize that. And that's also something that's very much key to our European Union-Caribbean trade agreement and trade partnership. We have a trade agreement that dates since 2008, so duty-free, quota-free access to the EU for all goods produced across the Caribbean, allowing them to reach potentially 450 million consumers across our 27 member states. And the predictability and the openness of that relationship is also key to our business and trade flows. I do recognize that products from the Caribbean who want to enter into the EU single market must also meet certain standards. We do have some of the most stringent ones in the world on pesticides, on chemical residues, on traceability, and packaging to promote human health. But this is also why we continue our long-standing investment and work and partnerships in the region with, for example, Caribbean Export and others, to develop and provide dedicated assistance and support that can address these supply-side constraints. I was very encouraged that in June this year, at the Ministerial Council meeting between CARIFORUM and the EU, and Minister Sinclair had the pleasure of being part of that conversation, we reaffirmed our commitment to the full implementation of this trade agreement between the EU and the Caribbean, noting that beyond trade in goods, the partnership also promotes investment, innovation, services, intellectual property protection, and regulatory cooperation, further supporting the certainty that investors need to make long-term commitments so that the goods that they may want to produce, the investments that they may want to take forward in the Caribbean region have a long-term secure prospect. Going forward, our investment offer to the region, which we call Global Gateway, as indicated on the sign, focuses on mobilizing private investment for infrastructure that supports sustainable development goals. Across the region, we are actively working to facilitate European capital and investment in support of digital connectivity, renewable energy, climate, transport corridors, health and pharmaceuticals, as well as in higher education and research. I'm therefore very encouraged by the alignment between the EU's investment focus and the sectors being showcased by the Caribbean Investment Forum in 2026, and I'm looking forward to the conversations that the forum will no doubt facilitate among companies from the European Union. 2026 marks the 30th anniversary for Caribbean Export. It marks the 50th anniversary for the EU's presence here in the region. So I would like to also take this opportunity to reaffirm the European Union's commitment to deepening our partnership with the Caribbean in support of a greener and more resilient future, which includes a key development role for the private sector. And my final remarks are addressed to investors, entrepreneurs, partners. Don't waste any time. Start planning your trip to Barbados now. October is around the corner. You do not want to miss the Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Again, we hear that keyword of partnership, and I know that the European Union has been a key partner with Caribbean Export over the years.
Yes, most definitely. I think from the 8th EDF, then it was the 9th EDF, then I joined the agency at the end of the 10th EDF, and then the 11th EDF, and now we're on the third regional private sector development program. And one thing that has really kind of stood out for me from the commitment from the European Union throughout all of that time is that, they're invested in the development of the region, and supporting the small businesses and, what is actually happening there, creating the jobs and really supporting the prosperity of the region. Even today, I recognize a couple of faces that I haven't seen for a very long time. Mr. Winter from Arawak. We've done some fantastic work on some of the programs from Design Caribbean to Caribbean Kitchen. It's been some fantastic work that has been supported by the European Union. And, it's great to see that these businesses are still creating jobs and opportunity for the people within the region.
Yes, very, very important. We're going to take a quick breath here and enjoy the relaxing sounds of renowned Barbadian saxophonist Romaro Graves. Lovely. Thank you so much, Romaro. That's a nice journey.
Fantastic. Yes, that certainly lightened the mood. I don't know if anybody else would agree, but I really did feel like standing up and dancing, you know. And I think, you know, this is why I love the Caribbean. You know,
Yeah.
we can do that in the morning of, you know, at what time is it? 10 o'clock?
Not even 10 o'clock, yeah, I don't think.
And we can enjoy the talent that we have right among us and, you know, really create some good business as well. So that's fantastic.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much, Romaro. And now we move to our feature address. Please welcome Senior Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator the Honorable Christopher Sinclair, to speak on positioning the Caribbean for the next generation of global investment.
I hope I didn't chase the ladies. My friends, they exited as soon as I came up. A pleasant good morning to all of you. You know, I've been taught in this foreign affairs business that you shouldn't say standing on protocol or protocol haven't been established. You really should go through it. But I'm going to beg forgiveness of my chief of protocol, who is, I believe, here today, and the protocolary staff from the ministry, and forego, even though I should really recognize Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey, the Ambassador for the European Union, European Commission here, delegation in Barbados in the Eastern Caribbean, and of course Dr. Sananand, who is my very good friend from Caribbean Export Director, and we worked in different spaces. And particularly with Caribbean Export over the last couple years. Of course, my very good friend, Dr. Lynette Holder, chairperson of Caribbean Export Development Agency, which I really should pause to offer, you know, my congratulations to her. And of course, to give thanks on behalf of the government and people of Barbados for the exemplary service which she has given in chairing this organization, along with her board, of course, and members of the staff. Dr. Holder has really equipped herself very well, and she came in at a not so easy time for the agency and has been able to shepherd it through and build it to the stage where it is now, you know, unreservedly one of the, if not the major export agency in the Caribbean. Thank you very much, Dr. Holder. And I say that because also you may know that she's transitioning out from that particular role later this year. And we are going to have, I presume, enough time to properly thank her. But I could not miss this opportunity, pass this opportunity to really express publicly our appreciation for the excellent work which she has done. Other members of the diplomatic corps, of course, permanent secretaries and senior government officials, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It's not often that I quote American football coaches, but when Dr. Holder spoke about Drucker, who is one of her particularly admired authors on the future, it drew me to a quotation from Yogi Berra, who once said that the future is not what it used to be. And I think I would agree to some extent that what we perhaps expected in many ways has now shifted. And sometimes it seems as though we are making it up as we go along. But even as we do that, we do have the knowledge, the talent, the expertise, and certainly the commitment to chart our course and our courses such that we can get returns. And this event really demonstrates that effort from Caribbean people. So it is an honor to join as we launch with this 5th Caribbean Investment Forum under the theme, Invest, Innovate, and Accelerate. And I commend Caribbean Export and its partners for building this engaging and very creative platform, which over the past 5 years has built a strong and credible space for investors, and of course, for those persons who innovate or entrepreneurs who take the time, the effort, and spend the resources to innovate and bring good project ideas to the fore. From its start in Trinidad and Tobago, through the rapid growth in the Bahamas and Guyana, and to the expansive presentation in Montego Bay, and you heard me talk about deja vu. I was at Montego Bay last year for SIF, and it was really an outstanding event. I participated not in this capacity. I was a consultant advisor on project preparation to the Inter-American Development Bank and advisor to the Caribbean Country Department Regional General Manager. And so I came from a different space. And it was my first encounter with SIF in this new dispensation. And it really was a remarkable event. And so I have been telling my staff that they have big shoes to fill. And so we believe that we are up to the task of filling those shoes, and if not matching, certainly surpassing what we saw in Jamaica. And we have to do it for Lynette, because she is chair, she is Barbadian, it is in her house, and we cannot let her down, as though we can't let the people of Barbados down. Because SIF has really now firmly established itself as the region's premier investment forum, bringing ideas to capital and intent to investments. And surely our colleagues at Caribbean Export, and of course your partners, your collaborators in this space, must be given full congratulations for their commitment over the years in building this up as something which people really do look forward to, which business people benefit from, and which the Caribbean, of course, prospers because of. Barbados is proud to be host and a strategic partner for SIF 2026. And in October, we will welcome visitors, entrepreneurs, decision makers, investors from across the world, including, of course, in our region. And I am happy to note that following what took place in Montego Bay, we intend to deliver the best ever Caribbean Investment Forum to date. Yes, you can clap for that. But our task as partners in this regional enterprise goes beyond just issuing an invitation and welcoming participants to Barbados. It is about making a clear proposition to global capital that the region is not only open for business, but ready to surge returns on investments while intensifying transformative development for all of our countries. Our reality in the Caribbean is that we are often viewed as just a collection of small, vulnerable markets sitting on the peripheries of the global economies, waiting for some small slice of global development to pass our way. The truth is that nothing could be further from the truth. Our region, ladies and gentlemen, is a stable, connected, and increasingly innovative geopolitical and economic space that offers commercially sound opportunities in global priorities such as food security, clean energy, digital solutions, climate resilience, and modern logistics. That, my friend, is the Caribbean that we must present today and always. Investors are savvy. We know that. Naturally, they prioritize returns on their investment. We know that too. But they're also pressing for clarity, transparency on whether economies are sound and their political environments within which they operate are stable. They seek predictable policies, speedy approvals of projects from inception to execution, adequately skilled and flexible labor forces, and the scaling of businesses beyond a simple national market. These are key areas of interest to investors. Our responsibility, therefore, is to ensure that these characteristics which define our national and regional business space are known and marketed to those who are looking for solid investment opportunities. And why? Because we are told by the recent UNCTAD report that global capital, that is foreign direct investment, rose by 6% to $1.6 trillion in 2025. However, flows to developing countries, including in the region, only grew by 2%. So this shows that capital is moving, but selectively to jurisdictions that are prepared, credible, and able to execute. And I believe you heard from both Her Excellency and from Dr. Selenan about the need for appropriate, articulated, definitive project preparation. And I think I should know a little bit about that since I spent at least 2 years of my life working with the IDB, establishing a project preparation coordination mechanism to do exactly that for the Caribbean. So ladies and gentlemen, there's work to be done to secure a larger proportion of foreign direct investment and local investment as well. And speaking of local investment, we in the Caribbean possess a number of advantages. Established democracies, respect for the rule of law, well-educated citizenry. Furthermore, our strategic geography, and I believe the ambassador spoke to this, location allows us to maintain deep ties with Europe, the Americas, and even now building stronger links with Africa and the wider global south. But in order to fully cash in, as it were, sorry for the bad cliche, on these attributes, we must be prepared to position ourselves at the cutting edge of knowledge, information, technology, and institutional flexibility. Deepening our knowledge of what investors want, how markets work, is going to be essential to repositioning ourselves to pry open investment books, nationally, regionally, and globally as well. It means that our planning and policy making in both public and private sectors must be punctilious, must be increasingly evidence-based, data-driven, and empirical to the core. If we cannot empirically say what is happening, why it is happening, and more importantly, how to make something happen, we will always fall short of the promise and compromise on our expectation. That means that we must not only acquire the latest and best technologies, as you have heard, AI and all these wonderful things, but we must be prepared to train our human resources across the region to mobilize and use that technology to drive innovation, expedite implementation, and increase inclusivity in policy making and planning. But it is unlikely that these aforementioned interventions will materialize if countries in the region as a whole, institutional flexibility does not become a core part of how we do business and how we engage people. May I suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that rigid institutional systems in the region may very well be one of the most constraining features of the investment grid across the region. I think we all know this somehow or the other. I think we all know that many of our countries, Barbados included to some extent, have been tackling this issue of, quote unquote, the ease of doing business for decades now with varying levels of success. We have seen the outgrowth and credible presence of several national investment agencies, right here in Barbados. Invest Barbados is one, across the region. And these have done stellar work in not only making our countries as safe, marketing our countries as safe, exciting, and credible investment hubs, but have also worked to coordinate at the regional level investment platforms that have opened up pathways to investment flows. These efforts, however, notwithstanding, national laws, institutional architectures, and operational procedures across the region in public and, yes, private sectors are still too rigid and lacking flexibility. Whether it is in customs procedure and port facilitation, tax policy, transportation, banking, and access to finance. Should I repeat? Access to finance. Do I hear anybody say yes? Access to finance. Or increasingly, as we have seen, some labor market rigidities or lack of flexibilities relative to accessing certain skills across the region, we continue to use another bad cliche, shoot ourselves in the foot. And so we cannot leverage our natural and our policy-created advantages if we fail to harness and unleash the hidden capacity and variety to which many this morning have mentioned and which you know exists in this region. I don't need to tell you that enough emphasis cannot, and I should say is not, but really in the totality cannot be placed on the Caribbean regional market as a market for consumption and investment that can grow our economies and position us to be world competitors. Our investment proposition must include not only what can be built in the Caribbean, but the assets that Caribbean people can use to build things for the world, whether tangible or intangible, as we all can be not just consumers, but producers as well. This region is not a series of disconnected jurisdictions, but one investment space, one in which capital, skills, goods, and services are more relatively effectively a space in which we can create partnerships using platforms such as Caribbean Investment Forum, as we have seen. And I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not participated in the B2B exercise, the business-to-business exchanges on the trading floor of the Caribbean Investment Forum, please do so in October. I had the privilege of participating in it. I also had the privilege of generating one or two projects too. But it is, for me, the highlight of the Caribbean Investment Forum because it brings people who perhaps would never have met each other, either in the natural or in the virtual space, together to exchange ideas, to see proposals and projects, and to work together to produce solid, credible investments. You really do have to participate in that exercise. And therefore, we have to then use these platforms in the Caribbean to ensure that we can unleash that constrained and restrained passion for innovation, for creation, for investment, and for business that exists among Caribbean people. So at the heart of SIF 2026, as you have heard, with these very strategically chosen areas to focus on, in terms of what you have seen from the presentation, we believe that the Caribbean region stands to benefit wholeheartedly from this and to push a commercial growth that has not been seen hitherto in the region. For our own part in Barbados, we intend to play our part. Barbados intends to be at the center of the investment story in the region. So let me put it plainly. Barbados is investment ready. Barbados is investment ready. Colleagues, we're not just ready because we say we are ready. We are ready because we have done the heavy lifting and continue to do the heavy lifting in the past few years on rebuilding the foundations of our economy and on which investment depends. We have restored economic stability. We have strengthened our institutions. We have modernized our legislation and continue to do so. We are modernizing infrastructure, including fast-tracking cutting-edge digital technology and technological investments that will allow us to become data sovereign while accelerating the capacity for moving capital, goods, services, and information, as well as ideas, to more efficient and effective ways. What does the evidence say about this? Our economy has recorded 22 straight quarters of economic growth. The unemployment rate at 6.1% now stands at one of the lowest since data has been recorded for employment statistics in the country. This is telling us that Barbadians and visitors as well, and workers from the Caribbean, are participating in the Barbados economy in all sections and all stanzas. It also tells us that the recovery has been set in And in spite of the instability which we are seeing across the world, we know what it is: high prices, disruption in the supply chain, conflicts of wars, or rumors of wars, wars and rumors of wars, and all of these things that are happening from the Strait of Hormuz to wherever it is, including natural disasters. Our economy has shown a remarkable resilience to be able to continue to grow and to grow strongly. That tells us that we have then now a clear responsibility to continue on that trajectory. And we have been, with investments in education, in technical training, in workforce development, and in business strengthening towards the transparency which we want to see and to ensure that our businesses continue to operate in a free environment, short of or absent of being blacklisted or some of these other things which happen and that can be an adumbration on growth. Our international reserves has reached $3.1 billion, providing almost 26 weeks of import cover, which gives us a comfortable cushion to buffer us against all of the things which I have just explained have been impacting on us by way of shock, exogenous shocks to our economy. But when we look beneath those macro figures, what do we see? We see that credit to the non-financial private sector is expanding, while the ratio of non-performing loans held by commercial banks is declining. This tells a story that the business system is picking up and that confidence has returned in a substantial measure that is allowing us to drive productivity gains as we move forward. Now, I don't say these things as trophies, even though the government can take a bow for that. I present them because together they say something to investors, and that is that we've built room to maneuver. We now have some space in which we can do things, not try things, because we're not in the business of trying things. It's not a try and error. Do things that are strategic to moving the economy and society forward, and most importantly, bringing people with us. Inclusivity, bringing people into the equation, small businesses, entrepreneurs, the individuals, traders, people operating in the commercial space. That is what is important, and that is what will bring us to the level where we need to be to demonstrate in a Caribbean Investment Forum that we are ready. I am sure the other countries in the Caribbean are doing equally as well. And that is why in earlier this year, I should say in April of this year, Barbados, for example, commissioned what we call Berth 6. And many of you may not know what Berth 6 is, but it is a new berth at the Bridgetown Port, a $213.5 million investment. And why have we done this? We have done this because moving goods and services, moving goods in particular, around the Caribbean, trade facilitation, port facilitation, is absolutely important. We will not achieve many of the lofty things which we have demonstrated here and which we will demonstrate in October through Caribbean Investment Forum if we do not have efficient ports, if we do not have ports and trade systems that facilitate the movement of goods, not just around the Caribbean, as is important, but as the ambassador has said, using the trade agreements that we have to enter into other markets as well. And so we took that on the good side. But what we've done in the last few weeks, we've launched BIMPay, which is a platform, ladies and gentlemen, as you would have been told, for a national instant payment system, which connects all of our commercial banks and 3 of the largest credit unions in Barbados, making for faster payments, stronger cash flows, and a more secure system for doing business. This goes to the heart, particularly for those small and medium-sized businesses who cannot engage the massive consultancies and technical expertise and buying the technology to do these things. Because after you've done an investment forum, after you've found your investor and you now need to move money around, you need a system to do so. And the average and the small, the medium and small and medium-sized businesses, the micro ones in particular, cannot afford that. The government of Barbados has stepped in front of them and is now providing this largely free of cost so that people can conduct business. That tells us not only that we want to be at the cutting edge of digital technology, that's important, fintech and all of the wonderful things that are happening, but it says that the government understands and is attuned to the needs of its society, to drive business, to drive innovation, and to take the burden off entrepreneurs of having to worry about how am I going to move this money securely? How am I going to engage with my fellow business people? How am I going to get larger investors involved and feeling comfortable that they can have their monies secured? So that is what, for us, investment ready looks like. And these are a lot of things that we've done and a lot more to be done, of course. And we will continue to work diligently on these, but we are extremely excited about the prospects for growing investments, for growing economic opportunities, even as we expand and deepen our investments in social development, infrastructural renewal, and national security. And so as new opportunities open up across areas in renewable energy, logistics, in agro-processing, in digital business and emerging technologies, climate resilience, logistics and transport, for investors to seek credible and strong areas in which to put their resources, we want to say to you that Barbados and the Caribbean are demonstrating that we have what it takes to make projects work. And so as we host this as Team Barbados, and it's really a team effort, not just the ministry, you see the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade there, but it is a team effort. Invest Barbados, Small Business Ministry, Commerce, and so forth and so on, the Small Business Association, of which Dr. Holt is CEO, all of these agencies that are working to host this very important and credible investment forum, we are doing so because we have a belief. We have a belief that this can work, and it can work for all Caribbean people. That's why we're doing this. We're not trying something, as I said, we're doing it because we know at the end positive results will come. So Barbados is committed to positively impacting and accelerating this development, to working with Dr. Senanan and his team to ensure that we do have this very credible space continued so that we can pass the torch on to the next country, which will host this event next year, or we hope. But for now, it is my duty to say to you, Barbados is open to business. Come, we welcome you. Come, invest with us, innovate with us, grow with us, and of course, have fun with us in Barbados. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May God bless all of you, and we look forward to a fantastic SIF 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Sinclair, for that endorsement. Please give him another round of applause. I now ask Dr. Sinanan, Ambassador Ramsey, Dr. Holder, and Wayne Elliott. Please join Minister Sinclair on the stage for a very quick photo op. Photographers will position you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wayne, we'll ask you to stay on the stage, please. This is yours, right? All right, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we move on to one of our highlights right now, which is the Capital Forum, where global capital meets Caribbean opportunity. Moderating this discussion will be Manager of Technical Programs at the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Wayne Elliott. And joining him on stage are Isaac Solomon, Russell Franklin, Garvin Jofield, and Cheryl Senhouse. Please join Wayne on stage. And Wayne, I'll kick it over to you to introduce your panelists and to kick off. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. All right. So global capital is becoming increasingly selective. The minister himself just said it. Investors are searching for markets that combine stability, innovation, sustainability, resilience, and scalable investment opportunities. In this same moment, the Caribbean is well positioned to attract and secure significantly more capital flows, with many untapped opportunities across key sectors of international interest: sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, digital transformation, logistics, trade, manufacturing, tourism, the blue economy, and climate resilience. The challenges facing our region, though, are also evolving. And it's no longer about or centered around how we simply attract capital, but in creating and maintaining a strong investment ecosystem, one capable of mobilizing and coordinating in such a way that we truly make the most of the various forms of available capital. It also requires one that unlocks more transformational investment, strengthens regional competitiveness, and accelerates sustainable economic growth. Today, the Capital Forum, where global capital meets Caribbean opportunities, we bring together 4 distinguished leaders, each representing a different but complementary source of capital that collectively shapes our Caribbean investment landscape. These are the institutions that will join us in October, some of them, along with private investment, and are eagerly waiting to meet with many of you project owners from across the region, across the globe. Representing private capital, Mr. Garvin Jofield is the economist of Republic Bank, where he leads the bank's economic intelligence unit. Representing Catalytic Climate Capital is Cheryl Senhouse, who's the Finance Innovation Director at the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator. Representing Investment Capital is Russell Franklin, the Operations and Financial Coordinator, Compete Caribbean, and he's here today representing the Inter-American Development Bank. And last but by no means least is Dr. Isaac Solomon, who is the Vice President of Operations for the Caribbean Development Bank. And with that, I welcome you, my distinguished panelists, and I wish to jump right in. DB called for action. The minister said he needs action. And so let's discuss what this action really looks like and what the institutions within our investment ecosystem are doing to really bring greater flows of investment capital to the region. 2. So I want to start with development capital. Very often, this is where you get your first start. This is where most of our entrepreneurs within the region really are really validated and are really shown or are given the opportunity to really understand if they're bankable and if what they're doing is transformational. Development capital for us provides a foundation upon which larger investment ecosystems could be built. It reduces our risk, it strengthens institutions, finances enabling infrastructure, and creates the conditions that allow additional resources. So I have one simple question for our panel throughout today. How can the Caribbean unlock significantly more levels of capital to finance investment, accelerate private sector growth, and strengthen regional competitiveness? Dr. Solomon, if you can give me a few remarks on my one question, sitting here listening to the speakers before. And if you can also help me to really understand how is it that development capital has been evolving to really catalyze the investment ecosystem in the Caribbean, I'll be most grateful.
Thank you very much, Wayne, and good morning, everyone. For a moment, I thought that once I listened to the Senior Minister Sinclair, that made this panel redundant because he spoke so eloquently about the ecosystem, the Caribbean's value proposition, where global financing is concerned, and exactly how we're located. But I think I'd want to add a few things to that. Before I do that, though, let me thank Caribbean Export for inviting us to be part of this platform. It essentially reaffirms our belief in the work that CEDA has done over the past 30 years and will continue to do in the foreseeable future. Our commitment is unwavering where that is concerned. I think I want to address the question by providing an overarching response that captures essentially what I'm going to say and will break down in the future discourse, is that the Caribbean does not have an opportunity deficit. It has an ecosystem challenge. The role of development capital is to strengthen the enabling environment, expand access to finance, build investment-ready firms and projects, and mobilize larger pools of private, institutional, and climate capital. That, I think, is the market failure we are trying to address as development finance institutions. And I think Minister Sinclair spoke very well about that opportunity that resides in the Caribbean in all of these spaces. But really what we do have when I talk about the ecosystem challenge is the fact that in spite of the situation where our needs and our opportunities are aligned with where the global investors are looking for opportunities, in spite of the fact that we are aligned and the opportunities are there, I think we suffer from not having investment-ready projects that are meeting the return criteria for private investors. And that's where the development finance institutions become important. That's where we focus on building the ecosystem and de-risking these opportunities to make this large pool of opportunity more investment ready. It is said and it's well known that every dollar of development finance that is mobilized plays a catalytic role in crowding in more climate finance, institutional finance, and so we intend to use our platform to do that. Those opportunities and those needs that I spoke about earlier are so huge that no one institution can address the needs of the region. So we have to partner. We have to create partnerships that help to build the ecosystem that can help us to strengthen the institutions and to ensure that we provide the necessary inputs to make our projects shovel-ready. Historically, though, in the history of the world, if we go back to the Industrial Revolution, it was private capital that created the growth and the development that responded to the needs then. In the less well-known agricultural revolution that took place after, again, it was private capital that drove the increased yields and output and raised the standard of living that we saw. If we are to locate ourselves in this moment, certainly everything that we do from a development landscape is circumscribed by climate. And so we now need to understand how we are going to reposition ourselves to make our input relevant to the time. And so we need to do that in a way that addresses the climate vulnerability of the region, and particularly addresses the uniqueness of the response that would make us more resilient, so that in our efforts to crowd in investment, we're not just crowding in investment based on external driven ideas of what it is we need in the Caribbean. There's been this argument about financing for mitigation and adaptation, which I think Terrell will speak to later on. We know very well, and it is well known, that we do not contribute to greenhouse gas emissions in the way that our international partners, countries do. And so for us to follow the flow, and that's where the bulk of the resources are heading to mitigation efforts, is really not helping to address our issue. Well, so the thing is, in essentially, it is for us to ensure that we capture all the opportunities, see where the weaknesses are, and to use our interventions to ensure that we fix the ecosystem, that we're able to mobilize resources, create access, and ensure that our private sector institutions become more competitive and our projects become more shovel-ready.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Solomon. So, Joe Field, Dr. Solomon just spoke a bit about the history and the need for private capital and how it's been moving around historically. Republic Financial has a significant amount of assets in the Caribbean, operating within some 16 countries across the Caribbean, across South America, and also in West Africa. As the economist for the group, I'd be very interested in really understanding from you, how do you see commercial banks such as yours playing a larger role in accelerating Caribbean investment?
Okay, thank you very much, Wayne, and good morning, everyone. The commercial banking sector has a very important role to play, obviously. And while we acknowledge that, as was said before, the ecosystem is not perfect, there are a lot of things that still need to be done. We have the obligation, I think, because we operate in the region, because we're based here, we have the obligation to try to push forward as best as possible, notwithstanding the shortcomings. So as I probably break up what I want to say into two parts, I want to discuss the bank's capabilities to directly accelerate credit, which is one, providing support, evaluating projects as they come. But something that we have done, if you don't mind me just using a couple of very specific references, is that we committed in 2021 to providing a great deal of, new sustainability loans. So we committed $200 million US across the group, with the aim of exhausting that over a 5-year period. Well, this is the 5th year, and I'm happy to report that we actually are $235 million US, which suggests that the appetite is there. We also, not too long after, decided to increase our focus on the SME sector. And admittedly, that though was done in Trinidad. We started in Trinidad with, of course, the intention to build it out. So we felt the need to probably master it before we go to the group. So we started humbly with a $20 million package that was exhausted in 3 weeks. So we bumped it up to 50, then 100, then 150 million. And I'm happy to report that just under 120 million of that has been exhausted. We also wanting as an organization to contribute to the region's food sustainability issues. We started again, in Trinidad and Tobago, and we earmarked $50 million for agriculture. And while we're in it, because we're not professionals in the sector, while we have been administering to the sector, we found particular needs for poultry and hydroponics. So what we did is we added a $20 million that was ring-fenced only for those two purposes within the sector. And what we did in addition, we added another $30 million. So overall, we had a $100 million package for the agricultural sector. And I'm happy to report that 70% of that has already been exhausted. So $70 million, essentially. Not satisfied there. What we've always believed our role to be is to help make firms in the region, the SMEs in the region, investment ready. So indirectly, we partner with institutions such as Caribbean Export to develop training programs. So we have, in the past, and we just completed phase 1 of the Thrive program with Caribbean Export, where SMEs got practical training in financial accounting, course accounting, e-commerce, and several other areas of training from the subject matter experts, which we believe is very critical. So we cannot only look to finance the sector and think our roles are finished, because what we have, as Wayne indicated before, we have quite a bit of leverage. So what we do, we use our experience and all our established partnerships to bring the training, to bring the level of exposure to SMEs and smaller businesses, sorry. Now, if you think I'm biased to watch SMEs, is because there is an urgent need for us. If we really have to generate long-term growth, we need to focus on SMEs. But we also do things as it relates to larger businesses. So what we've been doing, we also leverage all our contacts across the group, and we have arranged trade missions for our larger businesses with the wherewithal to export and to even invest in other countries. So I think by looking at, and being very conscious at the time, by looking at what we could do directly and then the things that we could do indirectly, I think commercial banks play a significant role in accelerating the growth of credit and investment across the region, and all, of course, with the aim of making the region a more attractive province as a whole for not only domestic investment, but also international investment.
Thank you, Mr. Jofield. Based on what I'm seeing coming through the pipeline, I heard you mention, 70% exhaust. I think we might need a top up. You have just enough time to get it right before SIF main event. We have quite a bit of package products that will be coming. We'll be utilizing quite a bit of our technology to be able to showcase these opportunities. And based on what I'm also seeing coming through the Thrive Accelerator, I think it might be a good time for that top up. I want to switch to another source of capital that we're seeing within our investment ecosystem. This is catalytic and climatic type capital. Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator is operating in this space, and you would have recently hosted the Climate Smart Summit in June 2026 right here in Barbados. Can you share with us how the catalytic capital is really unlocking investment that conventional finance hasn't been able to or cannot? Feel free to share with us some of the investment insights that you gained as you particularly seek to finance and secure financing for approximately US $18 billion in the climate-related project pipeline.
Thank you so much, Wayne, and thank you to the team from Caribbean Export for having us at this forum. I think events such as this really underscore, I think, the growth in the ecosystem and the development of some key solutions that we need to address the fragmentation in the ecosystem that Dr. Solomon would have pointed to. I'll just give you some background first as to how we got to our summit, and then share some insights from that event. So similar to Caribbean Export, we would have hosted from 2021 to 2023 about 9 investor forums for our organization. Most of them were virtual. We would have shared some projects with the pipeline for Your Bahamas SIF event in 2023. We did 1 or 2 events during COP events internationally. But the key takeaways coming out of those investor forums were that while projects were presenting themselves for investment, they were not investment ready. We had investors from the region as well as internationally. And more critically, we had international investors who had positioned themselves as patient, early-stage catalytic investors who still were not prepared to deploy capital to some of the projects in our pipeline. As a result of that, having done 9, as I said, and presented projects, including national projects that totaled probably about $2 billion at the point in time, we pivoted to develop an innovation fund with the objective of utilizing philanthropic capital, which is primarily how we as an organization are funded, directing our capital to provide access to project preparation services for projects within our pipeline. So we're utilizing philanthropic capital to be able to support access for the building of capacity for those projects to achieve investment readiness. So far, we have partnered with RevUp Caribbean, an accelerator, an incubator out of Jamaica, and we have put 12 projects through that program so far, 3 cohorts. The 3rd cohort is now being done. 4 of the projects that went through that program presented at our summit in June of this year. And we had a very similar thought process to what you're doing for SIF. I think the key element, that is part of addressing the fragmentation that exists in the ecosystem is what happens post-event. It's the conversations, enabling and forcing the conversations with investors. So coming out of the various accelerator programs, what are the next steps? How do you create that connection with the potential investor? Know that you've determined that this project is ready for investment. The key takeaways that we would have gotten from that forum while cultivating and crafting those conversations directly from the potential investors, CDB, IDV Invest would have been present. From private capital, we would have had Cygnus Capital, and we also had a Frexim Bank represented at that event. The key takeaways for investors continue to be based on a lot of the themes that were mentioned here this morning. Transparency, predictability in the market. At the level of the project itself, governance was mentioned very early on. Preparing that project from the very beginning to be able to build the structures and capacity and the technical capability, the managerial skill, and the thinking processes that allow you to have effective conversations with investors. It's something that, while we are in the MSME space, and we know that a lot of businesses, even within the climate space, are emergent. They may start very informally, and then, 3 years later, I want to grow. I need some money. But you haven't registered yet, you don't have your bank accounts in place, you don't have any formal guidance for your enterprise. Those things are important. You have to start from as early as possible doing those things to ensure that you're investment ready. All of our investors they're looking for returns, even persons who, as I said earlier, are patient and catalytic investors, they still want returns. Even where grants are provided, persons want to know that the impact that you have proposed that you're going to get for the grant funding, that it does happen. So everybody has their expectations, and you're going to be required to meet those expectations. So a lot of the planning and capacity and skill that's required to be able to deliver those things need to be embedded in enterprises from as early as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Institutional capital plays quite a big role in our region as well, but it takes a different slant. Usually it helps us to strengthen the investment ecosystem through policy support, technical expertise, institutional reform, and more the long-term type of financing partnerships. Mr. Franklin, the group that you represent today has a significant proportion of capital deployed in the Caribbean aimed at strengthening the investment ecosystem. In particular, I note that under One Caribbean, the One Caribbean portfolio, they deploy just about US $1 billion into the region annually. From where you sit, how can stronger institutions unlock significantly greater investment? And where should we focus our reforms to become more attractive for that investment?
Right. Good morning. Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Well, first, let me just say IDB is really divided into three arms. You know, there's the IDB Direct that works with the government to help with that ecosystem in terms of reforms by the government. I think the minister said it a lot. I think just to harp on what Dr. Solomon said, I think a lot of his speech was influenced, maybe a little feeling over the last 2 years working at IDB. So I feel, I try not to repeat too much of what he said earlier, but we're basically divided into three arms, and this is how we want to deploy this $1 billion, through working with the governments to help with reforms, through working with IDB Invest, who would work directly with the private sector, and through IDB Lab, who really look at innovating and supporting entrepreneurship, testing new models. And even within those three arms, there's smaller programs such as Compete Caribbean that really look at how can we increase that pipeline. And everybody's talked about pipeline. Charlotte's talked about investable projects. And what the bank is really looking at doing is really putting all of that together in a package for the Caribbean, having a greater focus and working through One Caribbean. And I think this is where Senior Minister was going with his presentation too as well. And One Caribbean is really trying to unlock the potential of the Caribbean, bringing all of this technical assistance and capital to the region. And I think the question you really pose in terms of unlocking this capital, I think the capital is there. I think what most people have commented is the pipeline there, from Dr. Solomon, from my colleague from our Republic Bank, and Cheryl, really having investable projects. And One Caribbean also has a facility, PPCM, which the Minister talked about earlier, in terms of helping the government and private sector to develop confidence in the market and in the pipeline, so that then we can take these projects to the next level. I think one of the great things that happened last year as well at SIF in Jamaica in Montego Bay was the signing of the MOU with Caribbean Export and IDB to also provide for that moving from SIF pipeline to possible funding by the IDB through one of our three arms, and also taking a look at it through some of the other smaller programs we have. And I think with that, you would start to see more capital inflows, or, well, not even inflows, more disbursements, I would say, because I think the capital is there. I think the challenge now is how do we get it dispersed? How do we get investors to do PPPs along with IDB, partnering IDB, CDB, all the other development partners as well, coming together where we see there's a need and a pool of funds that can go towards activities that our projects that we know will be successful by de-risking and supporting advisory services from that point of view. And I think from that perspective is not only about really unlocking the additional capital, but it's really something broader. It is really about creating the conditions that allow capital to move with confidence into the Caribbean.
Thank you very much. So this session is meant to be a preview of what you can expect from the Capital Forum within the Caribbean Investment Forum in October. And so I'm not going to ask too many more questions, but let's do a rapid fire. So everywhere good Caribbean people are, we always need to bubble a pot. So today we're going to be cooking a stew, and this stew is really about bankable and investable Caribbean businesses and projects. That's what we're cooking up. And what I'm going to ask each of you to toss into this pot from the vantage point of your institution. I know we have quite a number of our project owners, our entrepreneurs in the room and online. What is it that they need to come to Caribbean Investment Forum with? What is it that you look for? What is it that gives you that makes it a yes project? What is it that makes it bankable for you? Just toss it in the pot.
Okay, I'll go first as private capital. And what I'm about to say won't be new to anybody here. So some of the fundamentals we look for, and all commercial banks look for, is of course the nature of the industry first. If you're operating in an industry that has significant potential to grow, not only in the domestic market in which you operate, but even beyond the borders, I think that's a good start. We also look at firm-specific things, which is cliche, but leadership is also critical. The model to which you choose to set up your business is also critical. The extent to which you leverage technology, the focus of your business. Sometimes people come to us with credit and their focus is not necessarily aligned to what the market realities are and also what their focus should be in terms of where things are heading.
Cheryl?
First of all, I'll say it won't just be one thing, right? This is a Caribbean pot. It's going to have a lot of ingredients. But I think good technical support, good advisory support, critical, getting your numbers and fundamentals right so that you're having a robust conversation with your potential investors, understanding what it really is that you're asking for in terms of capital. You're making the right asks to the right investor. And then I would also want to make a plug for further additional players in the capital stack. I think I want to perhaps highlight IDB, Carib Equity Program, which is also helping to develop angel investment, another component of that capital stack that can help with catalyzing further investment from other players. So continuing to build out our financial ecosystem that fills some of the gaps that are not native to us in the Caribbean, but very much present in other markets, angel and VC investment.
Thank you. Dr. Solomon, are you going to toss in the spices? What makes it bankable from your perspective?
Well, before I talk about the bankable piece, I think what I would really want to see coming out of Caribbean Investment Forum 2026 is the opportunity where we can, as a group and all those who are attending, can come up with some truly regional projects. The reason why I'm saying that is because Minister Sinclair said that our region is not a fragmented one. Too often, we do projects in our different countries, duplicate them, and we call them regional projects. Really and truly, there are too many opportunities for us to have regional projects at the scale that would attract the private investors. And that is a missing link. And I think I would really love, from all the conversations, if we could walk away with one or two truly regional projects in nature, that would be fantastic. In terms of what else I think we can put in there, I think I am keen. I spoke about the ecosystem. I am keen on us addressing what is a structural issue in the private sector space, what they define as the missing middle, where some of our micro enterprises are really too small to qualify for finances, and then some of them are not investment ready to fit into the Republic Bank, the commercial banking space. I would love us to come up with the solutions to help this group in the missing middle to become more investment ready.
Russell?
So I know we're out of time, so 2 quick points, one on the public sector side, one on the private sector side. So I say, just following what Dr. Solomon said on the regional project on the public sector side, it would be good if we started to harmonize legislation and harmonize standards. It'd be critical. I think one of the regional projects that could really benefit the region is one of these other, a debt for nature, debt for social, debt for, you name it, swap in the region. Because if we go nationally, it's not going to generate the transaction costs at each national level is going to be more expensive than if we try to do it regionally together. But to do it regionally, then we need to harmonize simple things like procurement. We need to harmonize quality and standards. So I think that is important at that regional level to unlock additional capital by doing one of these debt for nature swaps at the regional level, bringing everybody together, more debt, lessening transactions. At the private sector level, Wayne, you and I encountered this 1,000 times. We receive very good, we have calls, proposals, we get projects, we receive the projects, and the ideas are good, we try to develop them, and then let's say the project has A, B, and is missing C, and we try to get the person to put in C. They don't know how to let go, or they don't know how to take additional advisory advice to scale and to improve. And I think in the Caribbean, there's this culture of conservatism where we try to keep things too close and don't understand that you need to expand. So I would hope at SIF, somebody comes with a good idea and an investor says to that person, hey, this is a good idea, but what if you add C, D, and E? And that person would not blow it off, but take it on board to, you know, hopefully increase the project and make the project a bit more viable.
Thank you. At this moment, I'm going to wrap up our panel and close it out, sign off for today. I think we've had a good flavor of what you can expect at Caribbean Investment Forum in October 5th to 7th, right here at the Hilton Barbados. I am absolutely confident, and I'm sure my team at Caribbean Export, we're absolutely confident that the Caribbean is the best place in the world to invest. From the conversations with you, my panelists, I am certain that you feel the same way. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sacrificing some time to be with us here today to really showcase what is it that we can expect at the Caribbean Investment Forum later in October. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please give the panelists another round of applause.
Now, I think, you know, we've heard quite a bit this morning, and, you know, one of the things that I just wanted to kind of reiterate is that this is really about the projects, and the event itself is really about connecting people together. We have seen, you know, over the last few SIFs that the businesses are meeting, the B2B meetings are a really important part of the program, and that's where the work gets done. And in fact, just off the back of the last Caribbean Investment Forum in Jamaica, we saw a connection take place between the Bahari Group and Amber Group. And so actually, let's just take a quick look at what the Ambassador Savadia has to say about that connection.
First of all, Amber Group as a company, we operate in nearly 100 countries all over the world with about 17 businesses. headquartered out of Jamaica, but we have offices in Dubai, in South Africa, India, many other locations. But the SIF was an interesting one for me because while we have done so well across the world, we never really zoned into the Caribbean much. One of the chief strategy officers of Bihari Group was in SIF 2025 in Jamaica, and post my speech on the stage around AI and technology and so on, and when I came down the stage, he approached me and we spoke a bit and then exchanged numbers, and over time that relationship went into becoming a very formidable relationship for our expansion into Guyana and Suriname both. So it was more like a match made in heaven. When we met, we realized they needed a lot of the services that we have, and we also wanted to enter new markets, especially Guyana, as we know, has grown very, very fast economically, and we wanted to be in those emerging markets. And in a few months' time, we actually registered Bihari Amber Technologies, which is now a joint venture with Bihari Group to provide technology services to all the Bihari Group companies, and also use that base to serve the government and serve other businesses who may need digitalization. And we have a massive product team. As Amber Group, like I said, we are in so many verticals ourselves, and we've built so many government solutions worldwide that with the number of platforms and the amount of digital services that we already provide, it was a huge fit, and that is what SIF brought to us in 2025.
So, yes, that's it in a nutshell. SIF is where you meet the right people. As Ambassador Thomas put it to me once, it's where you find that piece of the puzzle. You know, if you're looking to get something off the ground, SIF has got the right people in the right places at the right time, you know. So I encourage all of you to visit the website from now. Register for the event. You can already see what's in the program. Use the event app to secure your meetings with whoever you want to meet with, and really make the most of the Caribbean Investment Forum. And I invite you to actually have a look at those screens after we have finished here this morning, so you can kind of hear what other people have had to say about the event.
Sure. Thank you so much, Joellen. So as we move to bring the program pretty much to a close, I turn it over to you to give the formal vote of thanks.
Okay. I was going to wait for the screens to stop playing.
No, it's fine.
If we can. All right. So, I mean, as we complete the formal program as such, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Caribbean Export Development Agency to thank everyone who has helped us officially launch the Caribbean Investment Forum 2026. Our sincere appreciation to the Government of Barbados for welcoming SIF 2026, to the Senator, the Honourable Christopher Sinclair, for this morning's feature address. Also to Her Excellency Fiona Ramsey and the European Union for their continued partnership with Caribbean Export and for the support to the private sector development across the region. Thank you also to our chairperson, Dr. Lynette Holder, our executive director, Dr. Damie Sinanan, and of course, our Capital Forum contributors. Thank you very much for your support today. I'd also like to thank Romero Greaves for his interlude. I think that really helped to lighten the mood as such. And of course, to my co-host, Aisha Nichols. To the entire Caribbean Export team, you guys have worked tirelessly to make sure that this happens, our event manager as well, and to all of the team in the office that have been working to make this event happen. So today's launch has, I believe, been a significant moment to put the Caribbean Investment Forum on the map. And obviously, as I say, I encourage you all to stay connect with people that are here today. Look at the interactive screens. You can see some of the projects that will be available in October. And also, I invite you to use the wall to share your commitment as well to cooperating and working together to develop the partnerships that we need to really foster the economic development within the region.
Thank you so much, Joellen. And I see that there is a SIF launch flash sale going on right now. Attendees will receive an additional 10% discount if you use the promo code INVEST2026, and that is valid until August 16th at 11:59 p.m. So now is the time to get on the website and register for the SIF, actual SIF forum coming up in October. And as Joellen said, before you leave, take a look at the Caribbean Investment Wall, which is over to my right. There'll be some markers there, and you can literally put your shared commitment, what you will do to strengthen the Caribbean investment environment. Thank you all so much for joining us. Immediately following this, we will have some refreshments on the outside, and we ask you to stay and network a bit. Actually, no, the refreshments will be right in here at the back of the room. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, as well to those joining us online. Have a good rest of your day, and we look forward to welcoming you back in October. Good afternoon.